Hey, I want to teach you how to clone those beautiful roses you see at the store. Come join me in the chaos. Alright, so I saw these beautiful roses at the store. So of course I had to buy them. And I was hoping there was more than one, but there was only one of these left. But that's okay. I'm going to show you what to do. So I want to look at these branches and try to figure out which one of these branches I want to turn into a new rose plant. Typically you want to wait until the rose plant's a lot bigger, but I don't have that kind of patience, so I'm just going to get that started now. One of the best strategies is to pick a stem with no flower on it, but that doesn't matter. Like say you're at the, say someone gives you roses and there's a flower on that rose, not a big deal. You just want to cut the node off that has the rose. So this section of branch that has the rose on it, you would just cut below the next leaf, just to make sure you have a section of branch that wants to create a plant. Take a look here. I think that one might work. So one of my strategies I like to use is I don't really like crossing branches. See how this branch crosses this branch? Which means that's going to create a little jumbled mess. So in order to prevent the jumbled mess, you're going to prune it anyway. And since I'm going to prune it anyway, I might as well get a new plant out of it. So I'm going to cut over here. Make sure you can see what I'm doing. And yeah, this is a mini rose. You can do this with any rose. You can do this with big roses, any rose you see at the store with thick stems. Those work too. Doesn't really matter. So there's a couple ways to do this. I've showed other videos on my channel where you can put these branches into soft peat, wet peat. I don't really like fungus gnats, and so I've started doing aquaponic systems for my rooting. You don't have to spend money on those. You can literally just plop this into a cup of water. So I'm going to show you what I do next with this stem right here. Actually, I'm probably going to clean this up and turn this into 2 cuttings. You can see that it forks right here. So I'll get 1 cutting from this right side, and then this left side will make a 2nd cutting. All right, so here's my cutting, my rose plant. And I want to make sure that I have a nice fresh cut. So I like to get some on the lid, that's why I shook it. Remove this little bit right here. Just lightly scratch it. Make room for my rooting hormone. So the purpose of the rooting hormone, in case you don't know, this stem right here might not know that it's disconnected from the plant. And so what ends up happening as the leaves aren't able to get enough water, because in response to sunlight, they do what's called transpiration and they lose water. And if this stem isn't able to soak water up fast enough, it's going to release a hormone that tells it, hey, we need roots. And then, that's this hormone right here that tells the stem to make roots. So instead of waiting until the cutting is almost dead because of water loss, I'm giving it that hormone early, telling it, hey, those cells right there need to start turning themselves into roots. All right, Alright, so, and the way the system works, it has little waterfalls in each of these little compartments. If you're not familiar with an Aerogarden, again, you don't have to go out and buy one of these. I'll put links to the stuff if you want to find it, but it should be pretty easy to find. Right, here's another one. Nice fresh cut. Rooting hormone. And then you want to get it in the water as quickly as possible. Another trick I use that I found to be very effective, you'll notice is right here. So I have, in my mulch pile, I have a whole bunch of willow suckers because the arborists that made the mulch that I have in there, they left a few logs of a willow tree. And you can guess what happened when those willow logs were at the bottom of my wood chip pile. They just started rooting and growing right into my wood chip pile. And I don't mind because willow, if you don't know, is very good at producing natural rooting hormone. So I just stuck these in here and they're in the process of rooting right now, which means that they're probably releasing some of that rooting hormone chemical straight into the water. So let me show you this rose cutting that I made a couple weeks ago. Okay, so rose plant, or rose cutting. Look at those roots. I mean, I have, what, I don't know, maybe a foot of roots. So that should be plenty of roots to be able to support this little mini rose cutting. Probably been about 3 weeks actually. The point is though, is this branching out like crazy. I started off with this little tiny cutting. Branch, branch, branch. That's a really good sign when you're doing cuttings. And to have this much roots, I would say that that's a really good way to, a really good sign that what you're doing is producing a decent clone. And then of course this will have flowers exactly like the mother rose plant that I cut this off of. And I believe this particular one was like a yellowish red one or something. So pretty easy process, especially if you have one of these. I'm gonna go put this in the ground because that's probably a little bit too much roots. But anyway, hope that inspires you to clone your rose plants. Thanks for joining me in the chaos.